Hey, welcome to Webcomic Storybuilder, where I go through webtoons and webcomics that I've been reading and share storytelling tips and tricks catered towards webcomic creators. So today I'm going to talk about a webtoon that is called Reporting for Duty Duchess. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, this is definitely going to be very interesting. And it's about a woman known as Yoon Ah Lee. Yoon Ah Lee is in the army. She is in the special forces and she's a captain. She's actually the first person in her class, I think, or out of her colleagues to become a captain. So she is very skilled and talented. In fact, she's like third generation like army person. So her parents were in the army and her grandparents were in the army. So she was made for it. She was born to be in the army. She's been prepared since she was a young child, taught by her parents how to molded by her parents to join the army. So she's very skilled, very talented, but she's also very, very scary. And her subordinates or her co-workers, they are extremely afraid of her. Like, they call her Lucifer behind her back. That's her nickname, Lucifer. And if Lucifer is your nickname, then like you're definitely doing something. But her nickname is Lucifer and everyone's afraid of her, and they're all talking about how strict she is and how she doesn't go easy on them and she looks scary. And they're like, you probably can't even find a boyfriend, can you? But she's like telling them she's not interested in love, so she has no interest in love and romance. In fact, her friend was talking to her about a romance book. But this comes later on in the story. But her friend was talking about a romance book that she's been working on, and she hated everything. She hated all the characters. So she's just very uninterested in love, in romance. She just wants to progress in the army and do her job. And as they're all talking and laughing, suddenly someone sort of sounds the alarm because a village that they were sort of looking after has been attacked. And everyone's in chaos, everyone's panicking, and it's like things being thrown. And then Yoon Ali, she loses her life. So she loses her life, she blacks out. She opens her eyes and she wakes up, and everything's different. She's no longer in this unknown deserted land. She's in a room in a gown with frail arms. All her battle scars are gone. Her skin is smooth. Her tanned skin is gone as well. So no longer tanned, no longer muscly. And she's very frail and her voice sounds different as well. And the maid comes in and she grabs the maid and like pushes her down against the wall, or was it the floor? And she's telling her like, who am I, where am I, explain like what's going on. And it's like the maid is frightened because imagine from the maid's perspective, she's come to bring her master breakfast and she gets attacked by her master in this weird sort of what do you call it, like being held down, like a security guard would hold someone down or a police officer would. So she's frightened and she's scared and she's like saying, I can't breathe, please let me go. And she's like, Rosalie, what's happened to you, what's wrong? And Yunali, she's scared, she's shocked by what she's just heard. Rosalie, I know that name. That's the name of my friend's that's the name of a character from my friend's book. And she starts thinking back, and of course, being in the army, I guess she has learned to think fairly quickly and on her feet. So she puts two and two together and realizes that she has been transferred. She's been reborn as the character in her friend's book, and she thinks back to like the events of what happens in the book, because this is going to be her life from now on. She needs to know when exactly in the book she is and what's going to happen to her in the future. So Rosalie, sadly, she lost her father 5 years ago, and without a father, her father was the Duke. Without the father, she's now the Duchess, and she's looking after this huge territory. But Rosalie has a stepmother, and we all know how things end up with stepmothers. So she is one of the unlucky many women who end up with terrible, evil stepmothers. And Rosalie's stepmother is called Bella. She is very extravagant. She loves money. She loves spending. She has no care for her responsibilities. So since Rosalie is very young, very timid, and she's new to being a duchess, Bella takes advantage of this and she spends all of Rosalie's money. yeah, she spends all of Rosalie's money and the money of the area, the territory. And when all the money dries up, Bella decides to form an alliance with this guy called, what's his name? Wendell? So she forms an alliance with Marku. I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, but she forms an alliance with him, and they start like a battle. And with the help of Rosalie's friend, Sonia, and the Crown Prince, they both help her to claim her territory back, to fight back against her stepmother. Again, this is the path of the original story, and our main character, Yunali, we're going to call her MC. MC has to note down everything she remembers, because being in the army, she is all about planning, being ready, and fighting back. She is not about to let any of this happen to her. So she's forming a plan, noting down everything that she remembers her friend telling her about the story, about how Bella tries to take everything from Rosalie, about how she spends all the money and dries up all the family's wealth and starts a whole battle to claim more territory. And she decides, okay, what I need to do is, first of all, strengthen this family's military, and secondly, buy some mines, because apparently there's some mines that this rich guy is going to buy, and those mines have some really valuable items in it. I think she called them life stones, and she knows, like, she has the foresight, she knows what's going to happen in the future, so she's at an advantage, and she knows that those mines are going to contain valuable items that she's going to need, or that everyone's going to need, and it's going to become even more valuable. So her first course of action is to improve the military. And so as she's writing, the maid is she's a bit worried. She's suspicious. She asks Rosalie, is that really you? Like, are you still Rosalie? Because you're acting a bit strange. Like, you're not the same person, like, that I know. And MC, she's like, isn't that the maid who's stuck by Rosalie throughout everything? So she knows that she can't fool this maid, because the maid in the original story, the maid's called Emma, by the way, she's stuck with Rosalie through everything that happened, apparently. And so the main character says to her, I'm going to be the duchess that this territory needed. I'm going to step up and be a proper duchess. And the maid is like tearing up, because this, like, she's finally coming into her responsibilities, and this is a proud moment for her. But of course, MC, she tells the maid, you need to stop calling me miss. I'm your master, so you call me your grace. And the maid is like, wow, she's really serious. So of course the maid stops calling her miss and starts calling her your grace. And MC, she goes to find the training grounds to speak to the knights, to get a sense of where they're at and how they need to improve. Because remember, she was a captain in the military in modern day Korea, so she knows how to train people. She knows how to be a leader and how to lead an army. She has that knowledge. So she's off to the training grounds to see the knights. And Aaron, I can't remember what his last name is, but Aaron, he is the head of the Judat family order of knights. So that is Rosalie's family. He's the head of the knights of Rosalie's family. So he's the head knight. He's a very, very, very high profile individual, and he's looking at Rosalie and he's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Like, this isn't like you. And he thinks that Rosalie is there to spy on them for her stepmother. So he believes that she's on her stepmother's side, trying to sabotage them or something. And of course, Rosalie doesn't appreciate this, because she's just there out of curiosity. And she asks him, are you still loyal to my family? So, like, can I still trust you? Are you still loyal? And he shouts, like, he's sort of like, he didn't expect that question, but he sort of gets a bit nervous. Not nervous, like, the facial expressions are very interesting, but he shouts out that, like, he is still loyal. His family have been loyal for generations, and that won't change with him. So he assures his loyalty to her family and to her. And for the next few days, Rosalie's just spying on all these men, training to see how they're doing. And Aaron, he's noticing her, and of course all the other knights are noticing Rosalie's presence. They're a bit taken aback by it, because they don't really like her. I think there was an issue with the budget. So Rosalie's stepmother, Bella, she uses the whole family's funds for her own personal personal stuff. So funds that are meant to go to charities, for poverty, for famine, for even the knights. She sucks up all that money, and she uses it on herself to buy clothes, jewelry, and so on. And so the knights aren't very pleased with Rosalie because of how she handled her stepmother. And so when she's around, they start snickering and gossiping about her. They show her zero respect. They have no respect for her because they still think that she is that timid young lady, that timid noble from before. So Aaron's questioning Rosalie's presence. He's asking her, why are you still here? And like, why are you spying on us? Rosalie tells him that first of all, she tells him that their training resume is rubbish because, as someone with experience, she knows what a training resume is supposed to look like. Resume is supposed to look like. And so she tells him that theirs is rubbish, and he's offended because he's like, who is this young lady? Actually, they're all offended. They're like, who is this unknown woman telling us what to do? Like, it's not exactly because she's a woman, it's because she has no experience. So they all think, oh, so you just read a book about training and think you can tell us what to do. It's like if you read a book about medicine and then start telling a doctor how to do their job. Of course they're going to get offended because that's their perspective, so it's kind of understandable why they got offended. But Rosalie she makes a promise that she's going to renew their funding, and she's going to revamp their training. And so she heads off and she speaks to her maid, Emma, and she asks about the butler. She's like, so what happened to the butler? And Emma explains how, yeah, like he got fired, but we still have Bella's butler. And Rosalie says, okay, we're going to fire that one. So they're going to fire Bella's butler, which is unheard of because Rosalie doesn't do that. Rosalie's shy, Rosalie's quiet. Of course, Emma is scared because she has no clue what the aftermath of this is going to be. Like, she has no clue what's going to happen as a result of this. Either way, Rosalie gives Emma a note and she asks her to go fetch the previous butler, the butler that was serving the family before Bella fired him. And Emma, she delivers the note to the butler, and the next day he arrives in front of Rosalie, and Rosalie offers him his old job back and he accepts. And he sees the change in her and he's also impressed. He's also very, very proud of the woman that she's becoming, which of course is thanks to our main character, RMC, Yoon Ali. Anyway, so Yoon Ali makes a promise to herself. She is going to change her own fate. She's not going to do things how the original Rosalie did things. She's not going to be timid and quiet and allow this woman to take her whole life away. She's going to fight back. Of course, naturally, when the stepmother finds out that Rosalie changed the butler from the person that she put in the position back to the person who was originally in that position, she is really, really, really angry. And she thinks that Rosalie is challenging her and overstepping her boundaries, even though Rosalie is the one who is the duchess in this situation. So the stepmother's like, where is Rosalie? Bring her here. And I think it was Emma or one of the maids tells her, Rosalie said she's the duchess and you should come to her. And I was like, that's actually correct. Like, what audacity does she have to tell Rosalie to come to her when Rosalie is the one in charge? Anyways, so the stepmother, Bella, she eventually complies. She complies and she goes to see Rosalie, of course, with no intention of being civil or polite or anything. She goes to Rosalie and she's like a raging bull, like everything goes red and she's yelling and shouting. And she's like, how dare you challenge my authority? How dare you change the butler? Who do you think you are? That sort of thing. And Rosalie is like, she's calm and the aura around her is different. It's very authoritative. It's very intimidating. And the stepmother's like, did you learn to behave like this from your mother? And the main character, MC, Yoon Ali, she's thinking about how like her own mother, because this isn't Rosalie anymore, this is Yoon Ali, and her own mother, Yoon-Ah's mother, taught her to fight back because her whole family was in the army, her mother included was in the army. So they taught her to fight back, not to take things like this from people. They taught her to obey law and order. And so of course she does what her mother taught her. The stepmother, Bella, she is not happy. She didn't expect this sort of reaction. She expected Rosalie to be like how she usually is, to quiver and act all scared and apologize, I guess. But she didn't get that response, and that just makes her more furious. So she raises her hand, getting ready to slap Rosalie. And MC, she grabs her hand and squeezes her wrist. But she's like, and she tells her, like, don't you dare challenge my authority. But unlike before, Rosalie doesn't have, well, MC, Yuna, doesn't have the same strength that she did in her original body. She doesn't have those muscles anymore. And she's thinking to herself, gosh, I need to train. Eventually, I think she calls, is it Doran? Doran is the butler, and she calls for Doran, and he sends Bella away. She's like, send Bella back to her room, and of course he takes her back to her room. So Doran is the new butler, well, the new old butler, the old new butler, the original butler. Anyways, so then she calls for Aaron to come to her study, and when Aaron arrives, he sees Doran, and he just, like, his whole body just lights up. He's so happy, and like he's like, oh my gosh, it's Doran, it's you, I can't believe you're back. And MC, being the professional ex-army captain that she is, she's like, okay, let's get back to business, sit down. Like, she's all serious. And so she's talking about how she's going to return the funding for the knights training, and she's going to increase their salary. And of course, nothing exactly comes for free. Everything has a price. And so in exchange for her increasing the knights' salary, she has also increased their training regimen. So he reads the regimen, and he's just scared, because it has something like, oh my gosh, I think it was 2,000 push-ups, 2,000 sit-ups, 5,000 sword practices, 100 laps around the palace or building. And it's just crazy. Like, she was called Lucifer in her previous life for a reason. Anyway, so the butler takes the training regimen, and there's this moment in the panel where he's looking at, he looks at the maid, and the maid greets him as they pass each other, and like as he leaves. And it almost looks like he's blushing a bit. So I'm just wondering, is there something going on between Aaron and the maid, or is this just all in my imagination? But we'll find out eventually. So the maid is visiting, of course, Rosalie, and she enters her room, and she's like, hey, Your Grace, you have a letter. And MC, she opens the letter, and it's from the main character. So MC, she really, really didn't want to meet the main characters, because once she meets the main characters, the story really kicks off. Like, that's when things start to happen. And so she wanted to avoid it as much as possible, but I guess she just can't avoid Rosalie's best friend. So Rosalie's best friend is called Sonia Armenth. And Sonia's on her way with the Crown Prince, and they're going to be visiting very soon. And so, of course, Rosalie has to get ready for 2 guests. But she's also getting ready to join the knights in their training. In fact, she is going to be the one training the knights. So she is back in action, back into her military hat. And so she had her butler, Doran, prepare some new clothes for her. And eventually she joins the knights. So this is like a few days later, once her stuff has arrived. She joins the knights in their training, and she has this sort of uniform thing on. Like, it's not a dress, because she can't wear a dress while training, but she has like trousers on and this top and a hat on, and she's ready to like start training the knights and to train herself as well to get those muscles back. But the guys there, they all start laughing at her. Like, the minute she steps down and walks out in those clothes, they just burst out, well, maybe not burst out laughing, because she's still the lady of the house, but they're laughing, they're finding this hilarious, because of like an amateur thinks that she can train us. Yeah, so they're not too pleased with that. And she's holding a dagger. She has a dagger by her side, and they're like, it's probably just a toy. It's probably like a fake wooden dagger or something, like a plastic. I mean, I don't think they had plastic in those times, but like, they're just talking among themselves. It's probably just a fake dagger. Like, she's just here, and it's just a pretense. You know, it's a fake thing. She's doing it as a front. So she's getting like destroyed by the knights and destroyed by her stepmother. And if this was not Yuna Lee in the body, Rosalie would have been like shredded. She would have been gone. But Yuna Lee does not let this bring her down, because she knows how to deal with people through experience. And she tells them to all, like, she gives them an order, and she's like, line up, get ready, we're doing this. And no one really follows her orders. And this one guy like raises his hand. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested. I'm out. And she's like, who is this? she's like, who is this? And Aaron, the head knight, he tells them all, do what Rosalie says, do it. Like, she's the lady, come on, follow her orders. And this guy, he's like, nope, I'm not going to. I don't want to. And Aaron apologizes, and he's like, sorry, this is Toronto. And he's a senior knight in the Knight's Order. And of course, given his seniority, she can't just force him to do what she says, because in the end, like, forcing people to do something isn't really the answer. They could always just leave if they wanted to. So she knows she has to go about this the right way. And Toronto challenges her. He challenges her to test her skills, and he thinks that, like, I guess he thought that would scare her away or like get her to back down, but she accepts his challenge and she gets into her stance. And she's not into just any stance, she's in her military stance, like holding the dagger, getting ready. And Toronto's like, that's not half bad, your posture's good, your posture's all right. And he's about to like strike, but like he misses, and she does some moves and she makes him lose his balance. So she strikes at him, he tries to dodge, she makes him lose his balance, and then she gets him down on the ground, and like she has her boot on his neck, and she's like, that could have been your life gone if this was a real battle. And he's like, okay, fine, I surrender. And she stares at him, she glares at him, she gives him this like dead face look, and she's like, no, there is no surrendering in my Knight's Order. Like, the only way he can get out of a battle is when his life is gone. So yeah, I think they probably all preferred it when she was lazying around and not being a proper duchess. But honestly, this is for the good of the duchy, like the good of the territory, because she did say before, historically her family have always had the best knights, but over the like decades or centuries, the knights have just dwindled, and now they're all lazying around, sitting around, not training, barely have any stamina, and she can't accept that. She's going to get them all back into shape. So she wins this battle, and just as she's won, behind her is her friend, or not her friends, Rosalie's friends, and she's waving at her saying, hey Rosalie, hey, we've arrived. And it's the Crown Prince as well, and the Crown Prince is sort of, he's interested in the battle that just happened, he's paying attention, but like when he's first introduced, he has this sort of aloof look, like he looks very sort of absent-minded. And so Sonia and the Crown Prince, I believe his name is Derabeth, let's call him Derabeth, and he is having tea with Rosalie, and Sonia just wants to catch up with her best friend, and she wants to go see the garden, but this is the new Rosalie, and the new Rosalie, remember, Yun-Ah, she had no interest in romance before, so she's not really into the typical girly things like tea parties, gardens, and romance. She just wants to get her thing done, like get her army trained, survive in the weird world of her friend's novel. And so she tells her friend she tells the maid to send her friend to the garden for her friend to go alone. And the Crown Prince, he's staring at her, he's intrigued, and this time he doesn't look as aloof, he looks mean but also cheeky. So he's an interesting character. He looks mean but also cheeky, and he's staring at her. He's curious, examining her, and she's staring back. Like, what does he want? Why is he looking at me? Like, what do you want? Are you trying to have a staring contest or something? He tells her, before you would have looked away, I barely even knew like what your eyes looked like, because you couldn't hold a look with me. What's going on? What's changed? And he doesn't really ask her what's changed, but he's curious because she seems different. She can now look him in the eye, whereas before she would avoid his gaze. So now she's staring at his eyes boldly. So she's different. And while Sonia goes to the garden to look at the flowers, Rosalie, or MC, goes back to the training grounds to continue training with the soldiers, with the knights, because remember, she wants to gain her muscles back, and she wants the knights to be back into their historical status. And the Crown Prince, he's following her, and she's like, what are you doing here? Go with Sonia, go look at the gardens, go look at flowers, why are you here? And he says, I want to see how you train your knights. And she's worried because in the original story, Aaron, the head knight, leaves the Judat, anyways, he leaves Rosalie's family to join to join the Crown Prince's family, because I guess it's because in that storyline, Rosalie wasn't the Duchess that they all hoped that she would be. She couldn't stand up to her stepmother, Bella. So considering a falling family versus a thriving Crown Prince, he chose to leave Rosalie's family and go join the Crown Prince. So Rosalie is scared. She's worried that if the Crown Prince meets Aaron, he's going to leave. Aaron is going to leave her family again. His loyalty is going to be tested. So she does not want the Crown Prince anywhere near her knights. And she tells him to go. And he's like, no, I wanna check out your training regimen. She tells him, you know what, next time, okay, just not today. And he leans into her and he's like, you know, I don't take well to being refused a request. But okay, this one time, I'll come back later. The next day, or maybe a few days later, so main character, MC, she's in the training grounds, training the knights, training with the knights. And the knights are just struggling doing push-ups, like they are sweating. And it just looks like such a depressing scene. And basically what happens is every time they go too slow, MC, Yuna or Rosalie makes them start all over again. And based on the regimen that she gave Aaron, they have to do 2,000 push-ups. And they're just at 48 and they have to start all over again from zero. So yeah, they are struggling, and I think now they're even calling her the devilish Duchess. So she sort of somehow regained her old nickname, except from Lucifer, it's now the devilish Duchess. But as she is training these knights, the Crown Prince appears, and the whole time she was trying to get him away from Aaron, but I guess when he said that he'll eventually get to see the training grounds, he meant very, very soon. So he appears and she asks him, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm here to train, but what are you doing here? Because he did not expect to see the Duchess in the training grounds, especially so early in the morning. So as the Crown Prince is finished explaining his presence, the Duchess she kind of ignores him. So it's like if there was a celebrity there and you just don't really care. That was the kind of vibe she was given. Okay, you're here, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, bye. And so he sits down in a meditation pose and he starts breathing and meditating, and this blue layer forms above his skin, sort of like an aura. So it is an aura. It's an aura. So because the Crown Prince is a sword master and he's also mastered the aura. So this blue aura, and apparently the aura is the same color as the eyes of the person, which is why his is blue. And he's meditating, this aura appears, and MC, she's curious. She's like, this aura thing looks interesting. And she goes up to him and she starts asking him about it. And she's like, so can I touch your aura? And he's like, and he lets her hold, she gets her index finger and places it on his finger or his palm, and just to feel the aura. So yeah, and he told her beforehand that it doesn't really feel like anything, and she's like, yeah, it really doesn't feel like anything. As she's being amazed by this strange thing, he's observing her facial expressions, and he's thinking about how he's never really seen her make an expression like that before. So he's seeing new sides of her that he's never seen before, and he's becoming more and more intrigued, more and more interested. And when she's done exploring, he tells her, let me know whenever you want to see my aura again. Then he leaves at some point eventually, and MC, she's just thinking to herself, I really need to be careful with that one, because he's becoming too curious about her. In the novel, he would ignore her. He didn't really pay much attention to Rosalie, but now, because of MC, he's starting to become more interested in her, so much so that she's worried. She doesn't want to get too involved with the main characters. Anyway, so when they're done training, Sonia arrives, she appears, and she's like, come guys, let's go have tea, let's go talk, because that's what she came here to talk to her friend, not for her friend to be training with these guys, with the knights all day long. She wanted to spend time with her bestie, and so she calls them both over. She's like, come, let's go have tea, let's chat. And they're talking, and she's like, oh my gosh, Rosalie, there's this social function happening soon, so are you going to be there? And Rosalie starts thinking about how in the original novel, that social function, I think it's a ball or something, is where Bella, her stepmother, and Wendell, the Marquess, that's where they meet. And Rosalie's interested. She wants to know how faithful her new world is to the novel that her friend wrote. She wants to see it play out with her own eyes, just to see, like testing it out, because, to test her theory. So yeah, she's very interested in going. And just as she thinks that, her friend Sonia brings up her stepmother. She's like, I haven't seen your stepmother in a while. What happened? Where is she? And Rosalie's like, after that incident, well, she didn't explain the incident to Rosalie, but she's like, yeah, she's in her summer house. And we all know why she's in her summer house. But unfortunately, just as she says that, the stepmother appears and she's like, Rosalie, why didn't you tell me that the crown prince was coming? And she's like throwing this fit, trying to seem like she's still the boss of the house. And she has this sort of pompous energy about her. And Rosalie's like, I don't have to tell you anything. I am the duchess of this territory, and you do as I say, not the other way around. And the stepmother, she is taken aback by this comment, and she's like trying to big herself up, and she's like, no, you don't talk to me like that. And she's about to like slap her again. So it's literally like what happened before, but repeating. And clearly she did not learn her lesson from the first time, because the same way everything played out the first time, it plays out that same way again. And she's about to slap Rosalie. Rosalie grabs her wrist, holds her wrist tightly, and calls for her butler, Doran. Orders him to send Bella away. And of course he does that, and Bella is swiftly scooped away. Of course, this is the first time Sonia is seeing her best friend, her best, like, closest friend, behaving this way. And she's sort of like, she looks shocked and almost worried. And she's like, Rosalie, are you still the same person? Like, I don't want to lose my best friend. Are you still like that same Rosalie who I've always known? And like Rosalie, of course, reassures her. She's sort of like happy with the friendship, that they both have. Eventually, Sonia and the Crown Prince, they leave. They don't leave exactly, but they finish their conversation. And I'm not too sure how long they're both going to be staying there for, because they just keep popping up. Not that I'm complaining, but they end their conversation, and Rosalie now wants to attend that ball or social function to see how the novel plays out. And as she's walking with Doran, talking about the administrative manager. So they want to hire a new administrative manager, and funnily enough, the current administrative manager, he's walking towards them, and he's like speed walking towards Rosalie, and he's like, he looks frustrated, he looks angry, annoyed. He's asking Rosalie, what in the world are you doing? What is up with you? Like, do you realize that I have the backing of your stepmother? I am your stepmother's right-hand man. How dare you threaten my position? And he starts thinking about how, like, this young girl used to quiver in the presence of Bella. How dare she challenge her now? How dare she challenge me? And you're gonna regret this, Rosalie. So if you think you can stand up to your stepmother, then go ahead, fire me. But otherwise, you better take me back. And Rosalie, of course, she tells him, you are not the boss of me. Not these exact words, but she's letting him know that she's the boss, she's in charge. And if she tells him that his job is over, his job is over. And she even spits out facts. She's like, you spent this money on that, you embezzled this, you embezzled that. This money was supposed to go to the poor, this money was supposed to go to the farmers, and you spent it all on what? So yes, I have every right to fire you because you did your job poorly. And just at that time, Aaron, the head knight, he appears, and she's like, perfect, Aaron, could you please escort Nian, the ex-administrative manager, out of my home? Escort him out. And Aaron is like, he's very pleased to do this, because apparently Aaron did not like Nian at all. I guess because they were both embezzling money, and that money could have also been used to train the knights. So he's partly responsible for why the knights have such a short budget. So Aaron is dragging Nian out, and Doran is like, okay, so back to our conversation. And Rosalie says, so I have someone in mind who I want to become the new administrative manager. Could you please find this person for me? And Doran says, of course, Your Grace. The next day, the person who she's talking about appears, and his name is Irdit. It's Irdit. And he apparently, in the original novel, he was the crown prince's right-hand man. So she's acquiring some really powerful people, but he's a commoner. And the reason why the reason why she values him so much is because he graduated. I think it was one of the first to graduate from the academy. He was either the first commoner to graduate or just one of the first to graduate. But either way, he is a commoner, but he's a very, very intelligent commoner who knows what he's doing, and she values his guidance, his intelligence, and his knowledge. And so he's like there for the interview. So like, imagine going to somewhere and they tell you to come for an interview, and you sit down in front of all these people, and before you really say anything, they tell you, okay, so when do you start? And you just went there for the interview. And so that is what happens to Ardit. That's what happens to him. And he's wondering, like, but I just came in for the interview. I don't understand. Why are you hiring me so suddenly? And Rosalie explains, I see a potential within you, and I would like to cultivate that potential. So yes, I'm hiring you. And it's interesting because Ardit, he has this expression like he doesn't trust her. He's examining her and he's thinking of like what could be going on. And he says to her, do you have some sort of like embezzlement thing going on? Like, are you trying to hire me because I'm a commoner, because you want me to help you hide some money that you've been embezzling, or like to help you with this, to like commit your crimes? And she's like, no, I would never do something that cowardly. I'm hiring you because you have talent and I see your talents. And she starts thinking about how, like, I didn't even notice, but apparently he's wearing fake glasses, like non-prescripted glasses. I guess it's part of his character to let people's bring people's like suspicion down or something, that so people can let their guard down. But for whatever reason, he's wearing fake glasses, and he's sort of surprised about how charismatic and bold Rosalie is, because all the rumors say that she is scared, she is timid, she doesn't fight back. So she's the opposite of the rumors, and he's surprised, but he kind of likes it. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll work for you. And so before he arrived, what happened was Rosalie was actually talking to her best friend. Sonia was talking to Rosalie about how she's like, oh, my daddy bought me this mansion in this summer vacation mansion. Oh, my daddy got me this, my daddy got me that. Oh, papa got me so and so and such. And Rosalie wasn't very interested in the conversation, but either way, she calls for them. The maid comes and says, oh, your guest has arrived, the new administrative manager, Ardit, and her friend's like, okay, fine, I'll leave you by whatever. And so that's what happened beforehand. So now the whole interview took place, and he's been hired, and as he leaves, he's leaving the he's out of the building now, and he's in the garden, and Sonia, she's been there waiting for him. And she approaches him and she's like, how is your conversation with Rosalie? She's a bit timid, isn't she? She's very quiet. It didn't go that well, did it? Like, she probably didn't even say much, did she? And he is suspicious of her. So he clearly doesn't really trust people that easily, probably for a good reason, considering he's a commoner in the world of nobles. But so she is questioning him. She's interrogating him about his conversation with Rosalie, as if trying to spy on her friend. And he says to her, it went okay and I have to go now. Okay, bye. And so he doesn't really give her much time. Like, he doesn't give her the time of day. And he thinks to himself, this girl, I heard that she's close to the crown prince. I think she's the crown prince's fiance or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but he says to himself, she may be close to the crown prince, but she's not that memorable, and she seems like the kind to let her emotions get the better of her. So he doesn't seem to like her very much. As he's leaving, like, Sonia, like, usually she's very innocent looking and bubbly, but she makes this face, she makes this expression, and it's the kind of expression a villain would make. So I'm very suspicious of her now, and I'm wondering what in the world is going on. I feel like she's hiding. I think she's hiding her true personality, or maybe she liked how dependent Rosalie was on her. But now that Rosalie's very independent and confident, she's not liking it so much. But either way, she's seeming very suspicious. Now Rosalie is collecting her cards. She's got her old butler back. She's kept her head knight, and she has recruited the crown prince's right-hand man. Well, he's not the crown prince's right hand man now, but in the original novel he was going to be, and now he's hers. So she's building her cards, and she just needs the mines that contain the special thing. So Rosalie, she's doing her business, she's walking, planning how she's going to change her life. And almost out of nowhere, the crown prince pops up. Like I said, these people just keep popping up out of nowhere. Not sure what they're still doing in the house. I'm not sure how long their stay was meant to be. But he pops out of nowhere, and he says to her, "Hey Rosalie, can I borrow a horse?" And Rosalie, like, she's just so taken aback, because remember, Rosalie, she's from, well, not Rosalie, but MC in Rosalie's body. MC, she's from the modern world. And how often do we hear, "Hey, can I borrow a horse?" It's usually like, "Can I borrow," like, the closest thing would be, "Can I borrow your phone?" But he's like, "Hey, Rosalie, can I borrow your horse?" And she's like about to laugh. Just so taken aback by his request. So she lets him borrow a horse, and he says, "Hey, let's ride together." And she tells him, "I don't really know how to ride a horse." And she says, "Just let the stable boy like help you out with that." And he says, "No, I want you to help me out with that." So they go together to find a horse, and they want to ride together, but they want to ride together, but she can't get on her horse. She's wearing a dress, and with a dress on, it's just not possible. So he like holds her waist and lifts her up and places her on the horse, and he's about to like, originally they were going to walk with the horse, but he changes his mind and he gets on the horse behind her, and they start riding together. And at first, like, she's a bit worried, but she decides to just let go and enjoy the moment. And she closes her eyes and takes in the sounds and the scents, and then she opens her eyes again, and there's this beautiful view of fields and the sun, and it's just so amazing. And he says to her, like, "This is just such a beautiful view. Like, I didn't know this kind of view existed in your territory." And she says, like, I didn't know it existed either. And it's just this beautiful moment between them both. He says to her how, like, a view like that really helps to get rid of all your worries. And she says, what worries do you have? And he's like, "I don't think you really care about my worries, do you?" And she says, "Maybe not, but if you want to talk, I'm here to talk." And he thinks to himself about how she's not like the other girls. Like, I never hear that a lot with like romance stories, but she's not like the girls he knows, where they are very like, they cover up their words with flowery phrases. She's very honest, and she speaks her mind, and she's very direct as well. And he likes that about her. He likes her honesty. So he's clearly, getting very interested in her. Maybe even falling in love with her. But that is where chapter 7 ends, and I am still to find out what happens next. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do check out the webtoon, and do check out my game, where you play as a villainess, where you can change her life, change her story, sort of live how you want, in a sense. Find love, get married, cheat. And I'd really appreciate if you could leave your feedback. Just check the links in the description so you can give it a go. Thank you for watching.